ఒక 10-15 minutes అయితే ఇక్కడ ఉండు. So option B. You will have to answer as A, B, C, D. Only then the software will recognize. 2, 1, 3, 4 it will not recognize. Just again so that everyone will understand how to use this one. So try to answer this one again. Try to answer this one again. You will have to use only A, B, C, D as the option. Right. ఇది వాళ్ళకి కనపడుతుందా ఎవరు వినాలి మళ్ళీ వస్తుందా
సెకండ్ క్వశ్చన్ వచ్చినప్పుడు మళ్ళీ వస్తుంది.
Okay. Yeah. So let us start this seminar. So this present seminar, as I've told you, every Tuesday will have basics of neurosciences. So these are the basics of neurosciences. And in this part, I will be teaching about the cerebral cortex and functional areas of the brain. But because it's two basics, I want to ask you something before I present with this one. How many of you are practicing how many of you have completed your BPT and MT, and how many of you are doing your BPT or MPT? Yeah. A option if you are doing your BPT or MPT, and B if you have completed your training, after training. This is important because I will understand at what speed and what depth I need to tell you. So can you just tell me? Yeah, you will have to answer only in A and B. Only then I will be able to understand and the software will be able to recognize. ఎక్కడ వచ్చిందిరా షేర్ అని అంతేనా నీకు వచ్చిందా ఏమొచ్చింది చాలా మంది Yeah, so someone is not able to get this string. Help them, Fatima.
You refresh the browser.
If anyone has any problem with streaming, not audio visual, just WhatsApp on the group. No, we have the technical team who will guide you on the WhatsApp. I think everything is it clear for everyone? Is my audio clear for everyone? Either message me over here or in the WhatsApp. I think for majority it's clear. Fatima and Dr. Fatima, try to check at your end, no? The next board ఎందుకు Sure. Next board is just let me know how many people of you are able to hear me. Download message. Is anyone facing any problem with audio visual? Okay, fine. So I have checked on the group also. Majority are able to hear the audio properly. If someone is not able to hear the audio properly, try to check at this end. No, this software is supposed to be very good. So it is very stable software, and it's very unlikely that it will give a break. So let me start my presentation because it's already 15 minutes. See, this presentation is basically for the beginners. This is the basics of neurology. So I will be very slow so that by the end of this session, you'll be able to identify what are the cerebral hemispheres, what are the lobes of the brain, what are the different functional areas, and what happens when any functional area is injured. This is our ultimate outcome. Suppose a patient comes with injury to this part of the brain, you should be able to understand the patient will have these deficits and this part of the physiotherapy is required. So as I've asked you, how many hemispheres do you have? So our brain is divided into two portions. So basically you have two hemispheres. So we have the right one and the left one. So how are the right and left hemispheres divided? They are divided vertically by a fissure. This fissure is known as interhemispheric fissure. So this fissure is known as interhemispheric fissure. In my last presentation, I have told you that the surface of the brain is not uniform. It has a number of convolutions. It's not smooth surface. It has a number of convolutions. We have depressions and elevations. The elevations are known as gyri and the depressions are known as sulci. So this interhemispheric fissure is something like a big sulci which divides the brain into right and left halves. Right and the left halves. Suppose, so we have two portions of the brain, right and the left. How are they united? How do the brain get united to each other? The right part of the brain is united to the left part of the brain by horizontal fibers. These are horizontal neural fibers. These horizontal neural fibers are known as the corpus callosum. This is known as the corpus callosum. So am I clear? So we have two hemispheres and both the hemispheres are connected by horizontal white fiber tracts which are known as the corpus callosum. Last time I have told you, we have the cerebral hemispheres, we have the cerebellum, we have the brainstem. So we have three portions. We have the cerebrum, we have the cerebellum, we have the brainstem. Okay, so let's say A is cerebrum, B is cerebellum, C is brainstem. So I'm just drawing a mark on it. So can everyone tell you what is this structure which I have shown? Everyone try to answer. These are two basics, but that is important. So what is the structure which I have shown? Is it cerebrum, cerebellum, or the brainstem? Just answering A, B, C, and D. So majority of you have answered right. The answer is the cerebellum. So what is cerebrum? So all this is our A. So this entire structure is cerebrum. So this present day topic of ours will be completely dedicated to cerebrum. Cerebrum is the most important part of the brain, which is concerned with the conscious activities. As last time I've said, cerebellum is concerned with balancing, and brainstem is concerned with all the subconscious functions. What are the subconscious functions? Subconscious functions is like you sleep. That is mediated by reticular activating system of cerebellum. Your heart beats without your knowledge. That is mediated by the brainstem. You breathe without your knowledge. All the subconscious functions are done by your brainstem. This balancing is done by the cerebellum. And the cerebrum is your intellectual functions. Everything which you do consciously is mediated by the cerebrum. Fine. So you will have to identify this cerebrum as two main sulci, two largest sulci of the cerebrum. This sulci, which is present exactly in the middle and divides the brain into two portions. This is known as the central sulcus. So this sulcus is known as the central sulcus. So this is very important. The structure which is present slightly behind the middle of the skull. So it goes vertically down, and this is known as the central sulcus. The name is central sulcus, and it is present in the center. The second biggest sulcus on the brain surface is known as the lateral sulcus. Lateral sulcus, also known as Sylvian fissure. Okay, so this is the Sylvian fissure. So on the brain, you will have to identify two major sulci. One is the central sulcus, and this is the Sylvian fissure. Because of these two sulci, the surface of the brain is divided into four lobes. First lobe is the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is present in front of the central sulcus. The second one is the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe is present behind the central sulcus. Third one is the temporal lobe, and the temporal lobe is present beneath the lateral sulcus. So, and the lobe which is present posterior most is known as the occipital lobe. So we have four lobes. So what is present below the lateral sulcus? That is the temporal lobe. What are present above the Sylvian fissure? We have the frontal lobe and the parietal lobe. And what is present behind the lateral sulcus? That is the occipital lobe. And the frontal lobe and the parietal lobe, they are divided by the central sulcus. If there is any technical thing regarding voice and audio, please communicate on the WhatsApp. No, we have someone technical they're sitting, so they will be taking care of any technical issues. So you have any technical issues, try to contact on the WhatsApp group. I will continue with my presentation. So coming to these four lobes, everyone should understand these four lobes. So if anyone has not understood these four lobes, try to answer. I will not proceed further. Just let me know, as everyone understood these four lobes and two sulci, and also the two sulci. Yes, everyone has understood. So I'm going back. So yeah, this is a diagrammatic representation. So let's go to our actual brain. This is an actual picture. So let us see in the actual brain. So again, I'm drawing the central sulcus in this actual brain. So this is the central sulcus. Actually, color thickness.
Highlighter you can use if you want more, but it will go. This is the biggest.
Okay. So this structure is the central sulcus. Everyone try to draw on the picture shown on your film. You have to recognize this sulcus. Unless until you recognize the sulcus and the frontal and the lobes, the next session, the remaining part of session will be very difficult for you to understand. So also draw the Sylvian sulcus, Sylvian fissure on your screen. Either whether it's a mobile or a screen, try to identify the central fissure and the Sylvian sulcus. Once you have done, just inform me by saying yes. Yes. So next. So first topic was you have identified the lobes of the brain. Then we will identify the anatomical areas of the brain. Third part will be identifying the functional areas of brain. And fourth one will be identifying the real functions of the brain. So first one you have identified the lobes. Next we'll identify the anatomical parts of the brain. This will be a bit boring, but you'll have to understand. So you have already understood, you have already drawn the lateral fissure. So again draw the Sylvian sulcus. This is the central sulcus. So this everyone has understood, I think. So because of these things, we have four lobes. We have the frontal lobe, we have the parietal lobe, we have the temporal lobe, and we have the occipital lobe. We will go to each and every lobe. Yeah. Before this one, I wanted to tell you there are four surfaces of the brain. This is the superior view. This is the lateral view. This is the medial view. And we have the inferior view. So most important is the lateral part. So we are teaching the lateral part. So on the lateral surface, we have the four lobes. Now we will come to the frontal lobe. In this section, we are dealing with the anatomical parts of the brain. So coming to the frontal lobe. So this frontal lobe is demarcated posteriorly by the central sulcus. So this entire thing which you are seeing is the frontal lobe. This frontal lobe is divided into three gyri by two sulci. This is a superior frontal sulcus. This is the inferior frontal sulcus. So because of these two sulci, they are divided into three gyri. So we have first gyri, second gyrus, and third gyrus. So this gyrus is known as superior frontal gyrus. This one is known as the middle frontal gyrus. And this one is known as the inferior frontal gyrus. So that's all. So the frontal lobe has three gyrus: the superior frontal gyrus, the middle frontal gyrus, and the inferior frontal gyrus. And one more gyrus is present in front of the central sulcus. Okay, this is very important. This is known as the premotor. This is known as the motor area of the brain. Motor strip or the motor gyrus or motor, whatever you call. This is a motor cortex of the brain. You should not forget this area. This is the central sulcus. The area immediately in front of central sulcus. All this is known as the motor cortex of the brain. Now, let us come to the temporal lobe. So, the region below the lateral sulcus is known as the temporal lobe. So, this is the approximate area of the temporal lobe. So, the frontal lobe is divided into three gyri by two sulci. Similarly, the temporal lobe is divided into two gyri by two sulci. This is the superior temporal gyrus. This is the inferior temporal gyrus. Sulci. So because of these two sulci, you have three gyri. This is the superior temporal gyrus. This is the middle temporal gyrus. And this is the inferior temporal gyrus. And coming to the third lobe. So this is the third lobe, which is known as the parietal lobe. Parietal lobe has one sulci dividing into two gyri. So this is the superior parietal gyrus. This is the inferior parietal gyrus. So just the way in the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe has a gyri immediately beyond the central sulcus. This is known as postcentral gyrus or the sensory cortex. So let me erase once again. So try to answer me, what is this? So we have precentral gyrus, we have the postcentral gyrus and the superior temporal gyrus. So this is the central sulcus. So this is our central sulcus. The area immediately in front of this is known as the precentral gyrus, also known as the motor cortex. The gyrate immediately present posterior to central sulcus is known as the postcentral gyrus or the sensory cortex. So these things you will have to remember. So every one of you again try again. So what you are able to so we will be identifying three structures. A, which is the motor cortex or the precentral gyrus. I am going very slow purposely because unless you understand this portion of my webinar, the next portion of this webinar and all the subsequent webinars will not be useful. And this is specially designed for people who are doing their BPT. This is not for the seniors. Maybe it may be a reason, but basically it's too basic for them. So we are trying to identify these three things. So this is the central sulcus. So what is the structure which are shown by cross? Yeah, answer the poll. Yeah, 100% you people have understood. So this one is the motor cortex. Everyone try to draw on your screen. This part is the precentral gyrus or the motor cortex. And so this portion is the postcentral gyrus or the sensory cortex. So 100% everyone has 100% everyone has answered it correctly. I can just type over here. So what is this sulcus? I'm not starting the poll, just type over here. What is this sulcus called? No, Dr. Fatima, you are wrong. What is this sulcus? This entire one is the temporal lobe. This entire one is the temporal lobe. Right. This is the superior temporal sulcus. Right. Everyone is right. This is superior temporal sulcus. What is this sulcus? This sulcus which are showing. So what is this sulcus? This is the lateral sulcus as a sylvian fissure. So this is the superior temporal sulcus. This is the inferior temporal sulcus, dividing into three gyrus: superior temporal gyrus, middle temporal gyrus, and inferior temporal gyrus. Similarly, in the frontal lobe, we have the two sulci: superior frontal sulcus, the inferior frontal sulcus, dividing into three gyrus. Now that you have understood this one, what you have learned is what are the lobes of the brain. Second one, you have understood what are the anatomical divisions of the brain. Now we are going to the functional divisions of the brain. You should understand what I'm telling you. First portion was lobes of the brain. Second one portion was anatomical portions of the brain. Now functional divisions of the brain. Functional division is different. Functional divisions are known by Brodmann areas. Each functional area is given a name. So the functional areas are known as the Brodmann areas, and each functional division is given a name. So this is the picture which is shown. So as I've told you, this is the central sulcus. What is this functional division called? The yellow one. Type over here. What is this functional division called? I've told you. Right. This is known as the precentral gyrus is an anatomical name. Motor cortex is a functional name. So motor cortex is a functional name. If I ask what anatomical portion is this one, then what will you answer? Then you call it precentral gyrus. What functional area, then you'll have to say it's the motor cortex. And what functional division is this part? I'm waiting for your answers. Fine. Right. So the motor cortex is known as Brodmann number area 4. So Brodmann area 4 is known as, so the Brodmann area 4 is the motor cortex. Brodmann area 312. These are the area 312. 3, 1 and 2. 3 areas are combinedly known as Brodmann area 3, 1 and 2. All of this together form the sensory cortex. You will have to identify 3 more functional areas in the frontal lobe. So this is the motor cortex. So this area is known as the premotor cortex. This area is known as the premotor cortex. So what is premotor cortex made up of? This is made of posterior portion of the superior frontal gyrus, posterior portion of the middle frontal gyrus, and the posterior portion of the inferior frontal gyrus. So all of three together form the premotor cortex. Fine. The area just in front of the premotor cortex is known as area 6, or which is known as the frontal eye field. This is known as the frontal eye field. And the portion in front is known as the prefrontal cortex. So let us complete the functional areas of the frontal lobe. Before I go, you should not get confused with the anatomical things and the functional areas. Anatomical something is which you see when you open the brain. All the sulci and gyri are seen when you open the brain. But these functional areas are your artificial divisions. So superior frontal gyrus, middle frontal gyrus, inferior frontal gyrus, precentral gyrus are the anatomical areas, whereas the motor cortex, premotor cortex, frontal eye field, and the prefrontal cortex are the sensory areas. So this is our central sulcus. So the frontal lobe has how many functional areas? This functional areas is known as area 4. Brodmann area 4, which is the motor cortex. Area number 6 is known as the premotor cortex. Area number 8 is known as the frontal eye field, and remaining portion is the prefrontal cortex, which is known as Brodmann area 9, 10, 11, and 12. Even if you don't remember all the Brodmann areas, it's okay, but you'll have to remember area 4, area 3, 1, 2, because these are more important, the motor cortex and the sensory cortex. Now let us come to the function of each functional area. First, we'll complete the frontal lobe, and then we will go to the sensory lobe. Area 8, I will write once again. Someone is asking me what is area 8. So let me write once again. So we have motor cortex, which is area 4. Second one, we have the premotor cortex, which is area number 6. Third one, we have frontal eye field, which is area number 8. And we have the prefrontal cortex, which is area number 9, 10, 11, and 12. Actually, it's not very difficult. Can you logically apply and how these names have come? This is a motor cortex because it controls our primary motor cortex. The area in front of motor cortex is known as the premotor cortex. The area in front of the premotor cortex is known as the prefrontal area. So this is logical naming and it's easy to remember. Now let us see what are the functions of each of this brain. So let us see what are the functions of the motor cortex. So, is it okay with you if I give some polls, or are you getting bored? Or should be more fast enough, or is this a good pace? Should I be slow or fast? Can I ask you more polls, or should I just continue speaking? Okay, fine. So one thing which you have to remember is, so suppose what this is the left brain. Left part of the brain. So left cerebral hemisphere controls. We have two options. The left part of the brain controls the right part of the body. Or left part of the body. This is two basics, but this is very important that all of you understand. Yeah. So the left part of the body controls the right hemisphere or the left hemisphere. Fine. Yeah, I don't think I need to wait. Every one of you are right. Everyone knows the left part of the hemisphere controls the right part of the body. So the left motor cortex controls the right part of the body. This picture which I have shown you is the left brain. So this part controls the right part of the body. So what happens if there's an injury to the motor cortex? So what is the clinical condition which you get when there's injury to the motor cortex? What do you call the clinical condition? Is anyone asking me why does it left? Yeah, someone is asking me. Yeah, someone is asking me why does left part of the hemisphere control the right part of the body? Is because I will be telling you in next portion, next webinar. This motor cortex, we have the pyramidal tract. These are the pyramidal neurons. So all these neurons from the motor cortex enter the spinal cord. At the level of medulla oblongata, they cross over to the opposite side. So this is the left side, and then they cross over to the right side. That is why the left part of the body controls the right part. Right. This is a decussation which causes the is responsible that left part controls the right part. And so this is right. The paralysis of the right side of the body, which is known as hemiplegia or hemiparesis, and that too a human kind of lesion, as Dr. Icha said. So everyone is obvious, right? So this one is basic enough, and I'm pretty happy that everyone of you have told. So now let's come to the premotor cortex. So what are the functions of premotor cortex? Can anyone guess what are the functions of the premotor cortex? Can anyone tell you what are the functions of? Someone is asking whether recording or not. Again, I'm new to this software. What I have been told is once in this live seminar, it will automatically get recorded. But because it's my first presentation on an academy, I should say whether it will get recorded or not. Okay. They told me that a technical person said that it will record. So let me see. I hope it will get recorded. So we have completed the function of motor cortex. So what is the main function of the premotor cortex? Premotor cortex is concerned with integration of the motor movements. It is concerned with the integration of the integration of the motor movements. What do you mean by integration? Any skillful activity, the motor cortex is concerned with the primary motions, flexion at the hand, movements of the fingers, or flexion at the leg. These gross movements are controlled by the motor cortex. to smoothen them. They coordinate. Suppose I have to move my hand. I will have to extend at the shoulder, abduct at the shoulder, and also I will have to flex or extend at the elbow joint. So this coordination of different movements is controlled by the premotor cortex. So basically, premotor cortex is concerned with the skillful movements. Fine. So now coming to this is the function of the premotor cortex. And now what does the frontal eye field do? Can anyone answer what are the functions of the frontal eye field? If you don't know the answer, answer no. Anyone? No, you are not audible. Yes? Not association, not intelligence. Dr. Shraddha has told movement of the eyes, which is right. So, but what movements of the eyes? I will tell you. Whenever frontal eye field gets stimulated, suppose I stimulate, intraoperative sometimes I stimulate the frontal eye field. The front, as the name says, it's an eye field. So it controls the eye muscles. But eye muscles, eye functions are very different. When there are functions for lifting the eyes up, there are centers for lifting the eyes down, for seeing lateral medial. So the frontal eye field has one function, which is, and second one more important is, suppose you close one of your eye and you move. This is not conjugate movements. But when you look to the left, both of your eyes move to the left. When you look to the right, both of your eyes move. This is known as the conjugate movements. So the frontal eye field controls the conjugate movements of the eye. And what conjugate movements? If you stimulate the frontal eye field, both your eyes will conjugately deviate to the right side. Suppose this is a left eye field. Left frontal eye field. I stimulate it. I stimulate with the current. So what will happen? What will happen to my eyes? No, it's not related to the optic nerve field. It's not related to nasal field or the temporal field. It is only optic. What Dr. Richa is speaking is about the visual fields. It's not connected with the visual fields. It is only connected with the ocular movements. It's connected with the movements of the eye. And that too only one function, that is conjugate deviation of the eyes. So when frontal eye field is excited, that is you apply current, the eyes will deviate conjugately to the opposite side. That is, if I apply on the left side, it will go to the right side. No, there's nothing related to eye field. This is related to movement of the eye. Visual fields are related to the optic nerve and the occipital lobe. Yeah. Someone is asking pursuit and saccadic movements. These are the saccadic conjugate movements which are controlled by the frontal eye field. And what saccadic movements? Saccadic movements are rapid conjugate eye movements. So the left stimulation of the left frontal eye field will cause conjugate deviation of eyes to the right. Has anyone, what happens during a seizure? Suppose there is a seizure focus on the from here. Suppose there is a tumor over here. Patient gets a seizure. So what happens to his eyes? Try to answer. I'm waiting for your answer. There's a tumor on the frontal eye field. What happens to the eye? No. Dr. Sabha has told rules back. That is wrong. Dr. Shraddha is saying blinking. Wrong. Some anonymous is saying involuntary movement of eye. That is right. But what involuntary movements? Dr. Fatima is saying right conjugate movement. That is right. What Dr. Fatima has said is right conjugate movement. So let me show you. So this is our eye. So this is our eye. This is right. This is left. So if there is a tumor, both your eyes will be deviated towards right. Forcibly. Am I clear? No, not related to ptosis. Not related to ptosis is a third nerve function, so not related to ptosis. This is only forcible deviation of eye to the opposite side. Is this clear or is it confusing? Clear or confusing? Clear, clear, clear. Fine. Let me erase everything. I will ask you. The patient has a glioma over say left frontal eye field. So the option A is I will deviate, let's say right eye field. Option A is patient will have uproll. B, voluntary deviation to left. C, involuntary deviation to right. So let me take a view. Yeah, answer. Again, there are many people who have given a wrong answer. Yes, yes. Fine. Fine. Many people have said involuntary, but actually, it was my fault. During a seizure, it's involuntary. But when you voluntarily want to see to the opposite side, even that is controlled by area height. So we have the motor cortex or the premotor cortex, area height, and what is left is the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is your intellectual function, IQ. So it's traditionally said that people who have a bulging forehead or a big forehead and they are intelligent, and that is true. The more the frontal lobe we have more intellectual functions. But this dorsolateral frontal cortex has three portions. One is the lateral portion, one is the orbital, that is inferior portion, and third one is the medial portion. So now we are speaking about the lateral portion. So what happens in lateral portion? What is the function of the lateral position? This is your IQ. This is your behavior. This is your social sense. This is your judgment. So suppose there is injury to the lateral frontal cortex, what you know, prefrontal cortex. Patient will lose his judgment. Patient will become very irritable. They will shout on you. They will do everything which is bad in the society. Have you heard of any movies or anything where you have seen that patients with head injury behave abnormally? They do antisocial activities. No, social incontinence is not concerned with this area. That will come later. This is concerned with social wrong judgment, social malbehavior. What you think a society believes this is wrong, they may be doing those things, and that they are doing often head injury without their abusing is seen in patients often head injury. Suppose a patient after head injury starts abusing you, can you tell? Now it's easy for you to tell. So the injury is on the frontal cortex. So now we have completed our frontal lobe. And of all the lobes of the brain which I was trying to tell you of the functional areas, the frontal lobe is the quite difficult one. So if everyone is happy with the frontal lobe, I will go to the temporal lobe. Fine, we will go to the temporal lobe. So again, what is this, sulcus? Even though I'm repeating again and again, I'm boring you. This is very important. So what is this sulcus called? Lateral sulcus. What is the other name of lateral sulcus? Sylvian fissure. So the part of the brain below the lateral sulcus. What lobe is this? What is the name of the lobe? What is the name of the lobe? Temporal lobe. So this temporal lobe has how many gyri? Has how many gyri? So let me give a poll. Let me know how many of you are actually right. So how many temporal lobe, how many gyri does the temporal lobe have? So how many temporal gyri are seen? So A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and let's start a poll. Yeah. 3, 3, 3, 3. Because there's a confusion. Yeah, 95% of people have said it's 3. So I understand that you understood there are 3 gyri and 2 sulci. Fine. So the superior temporal gyrus, middle temporal gyrus, inferior temporal gyrus were anatomical regions. This you need to know because you need to know. Without basic anatomy, it's very difficult to communicate. But what is more important is you should understand the functional areas of this lobe. So what are the functional areas available? So this is the superior temporal gyrus. Can you tell me which sensory organ is present just beside the temporal lobe? Is it near to your eyes, near to your ears, near to your nose or mouth? It's near to your ear. So temporal lobe is concerned with what function? Vision, hearing, taste, what? You can easily guess. Hearing. Fine. So temporal lobe is concerned with hearing, and this part of the temporal lobe is known as the auditory cortex. This area is known as auditory cortex. And what is the number of the auditory cortex? This is area 41 and 42. So area 41 is known as the auditory cortex. And can you tell me from the picture which gyra is situated? Superior temporal gyrus or middle or inferior? Right. It is present in the superior temporal gyrus. Whenever we speak of a functional area, particularly when regarding sensory functional areas, we have primary functional areas and associated functional areas. So we have the primary functional area and associated functional areas. What is the role of we have primary auditory cortex? So area 141 was primary auditory cortex. Primary auditory cortex. Area 42 is known as the secondary or associative auditory cortex. So every sensory cortex has two portions, every sensory areas, primary sensory area and secondary sensory area. So primary functional area has the role of cross functions, whereas associative functional area fine tunes them so that we understand very well. So similarly, whenever you speak, the impulses first go to area 42, which is known as the primary auditory cortex, and from there it goes to secondary auditory cortex. But I mean to say from area 41, it goes to secondary auditory cortex for further fine tuning. So it will initially go to area 41. From area 41, it will go to area 42. Area 41 is known as primary auditory cortex. Area 42 is known as secondary auditory cortex or associated area. In primary auditory cortex, you have the basic processing of the auditory impulses. And in secondary auditory cortex, the brain further fine tunes. It associates the auditory impulses with the surroundings, with the instances, with the context, so that you will understand the meaning of that tale, of that words. So in the temporal lobe, we'll have to remember this area 41 and 42. Now let's come to the parietal lobe. So parietal lobe has how many sulci? Answer in the chat box. 41 is basic hearing, 42 is associated and fine tuning of the hearing. So again, so parietal lobe has how many sulci? How many horizontal sulci? I'm asking you only the horizontal sulci. Yeah, we have one horizontal sulci, which is known as the intraparietal sulcus. How many gyri you have? 2. So this is the superior parietal gyrus. This is the inferior parietal gyrus. Okay. And this area 312 is known as sensory cortex. So what is the function of sensory cortex? It helps in conscious appreciation of all the sensations from opposite side of the body. I will ask you a question. If I give you 5 rupee coins, 10 rupee coins, a pen, a paper, suppose like your purse I watch, I put it in onto your hand and with your eyes closed, how many of you can recognize whether it's a 5 rupee coin or a 10 rupee coin? How many of you can recognize? I think every one of you can recognize. And this recognition is called as what? I want few more answers. This recognition, suppose I put 10 rupee coin in my hand, in your hand with your eyes closed, and you are able to recognize what is this. So what is this called? This is called stereognosis. Exactly right. This is known as stereognosis. So this stereognosis is the function of sensory cortex. All the sensations which come to the brain, if you have to recognize that consciously, that should come to the sensory cortex. One practical example which I'm telling you is, suppose I put a 10 rupee coin in your hand and I ask you to close your eyes. With closed eyes also, you can recognize this is 10 rupee coin, this is 1 rupee coin, this is my pen, this is your keys. When you try to take your keys from your purse, you just go into your purse and pick it up. You don't open it and see where is my keys, because your hands and the touch of the keys, your brain will understand that these are your key chain. These are your keys. This conscious identification of the sensory things is known as stereognosis. And someone is asking me, if the person is not able to identify this, what do you call that condition? Do we call that one astereognosia? Fine. So any injury to sensory cortex causes loss of sensation from the opposite side of body, and the patient will also have astereognosia. Okay, and then what is left is inferior parietal gyrus. This inferior parietal gyrus, okay, let me go. Now the next portion is very, very important. This is very, very important, and I don't want anyone to forget this. That is conscious. Whenever I'm speaking about cerebral cortex, all these are conscious functions. So patient will be able to go in, he will be able to understand that this is a 1 rupee coin, a 10 rupee coin. And of course, if he has prior experience. So next things are very important. This part of the inferior parietal lobule. See, so this part of the inferior parietal lobule is known as superior marginal gyrus. This is known as the superior marginal gyrus. Sorry. This is known as the angular gyrus. This one is known as the supramarginal gyrus. Okay, the angular gyrus is area 39. This is known as area 40. One more thing which you have to remember is the posterior part of the inferior frontal gyrus. Can anyone tell me the name of this gyrus, this area? This is area 22. Sorry, this is area 44. This is area 22. So can anyone tell me the name of area 44? Right. Area 44 is known as the Broca's area. And anyone can you tell me name of area 22? Wernicke's area. So these four areas of brain are the areas of speech. Everyone try to concentrate for the next 10 minutes. This is very important, and even if you forget, you should not forget the sensory cortex, you should not forget the motor cortex, and you should not forget the speech areas. So we have four speech areas. Of one, most important is the known as the area 44, which is known as the Broca's area, and which is there in the inferior frontal gyrus. Second most important area is area 22, which is known as Wernicke's area. Wernicke's area, and it is present in the superior temporal gyrus, posterior portion, the superior temporal gyrus. The angular gyrus and the supramarginal gyrus, they are parts of the inferior parietal gyrus. So am I clear? There are four speaking areas. So what happens? Whenever someone speaks, so it comes to which area? It goes to area 41, which is primary auditory area. Then it will go to area 42 for association. From there, it will go to area 22. From area 22, it goes to area 44. So whenever you speak something, from the ear, it will go to, let me erase and draw once again. So this is area 41 and 42. This is the area 22. This area 39. This is area 40. This is area 39, and this is area 22. So from our ear, they reach primary auditory cortex and secondary auditory cortex. From there, they go to Wernicke's area. From there, they go to Broca's area. So what is the function of Wernicke's area? What is the function of Broca's area? Wernicke's area is known as sensory speech area. What do you mean by sensory speech area? It understands, comprehension. It understands. So let me be more clear. So I speak something. The sound reaches the ear. In the ear, it's only sound. Our brain will not understand what it has heard. When it reaches area 41, you will recognize that we are hearing something. It reaches our consciousness that I'm hearing something. But you will not be able to understand what you are hearing. When it reaches area 22, you will understand what you are hearing. What you are hearing is good or bad. What you have to answer. All this processing, the CPU, what is the RAM or processor of the computer? This is the RAM or CPU of our speech. So at area 22, I will understand what to speak. I will understand what I've heard. After understanding, I will have to reply. What I have to reply, that replication comes from a Broca's area. So once the Broca's area decides, so I will have to answer this one. So it gives its signals to the motor area. From the motor area, it will give impulses to our muscles of tongue and mouth to speak. Am I clear in this? So let me ask. So from the ear, I will go to area number 41. So what happens at area 41? Everyone try to answer. What happens at area 41 and 42? Yeah, I am hearing. That's all. From area 41, it goes to area 22. So what happens at area 22? Comprehends, interpretation, understand, hearing and comprehension. Right, everyone is right. So from area 22, it goes to which area? It goes to area 44. Right. From area 44, it goes to where? From area 44, we have decided what to speak. You're right. Then it goes to the motor cortex. From motor cortex, the impulses reaches finally muscles of tongue, mouth, everything. Right. Excellent. I'm very happy that every one of you have answered. So this is very important. This is speech area. One thing I want to ask you is that I want to tell you, I want my pen. One is I can open my mouth and say, give me my pen. So the sound travels through your ear and you understand all the pathway. Is there any way that I can tell you that I want my pen? Is there any other sensation by which I can tell you that give me my pen? Touch, vision, right. Signs is vision, right. So when you say speech, this is not only sound, the expression, touch, vision, everything is involved in that. Suppose I've asked you, by touching, I'm asking you, I want my pen. So touch, that is from the skin. So touch is from the skin. From the skin, where do the impulse go? Sensory functions. All the sensory functions go to which area? I'm waiting for the answer. Sensory function goes to, yeah, I want more answers, sensory cortex. Right. So it goes to area 3, 1, and 2. That is not 3, 1, 2. Area 3 and 1 and 2. There are 3 different areas combined as sensory cortex. So from the skin, they go to the sensory cortex. From the sensory cortex, they go to supramarginal gyrus. This is area 40. So what is the function of area 40? It comprehends touch sensation, understanding touch, comprehension of touch. Touch. So comprehension of touch is seen by which gyrus, which functional area? What is this called? Area 40. What is the name of area 40? What is the name of area 40? Supramarginal gyrus. Exactly. So from area 40 it will go to where? From area 40 it will go to? No. Now we have decided what to speak. So where it will go? You have to two things. Okay, now right. One thing is if I have to reply, yes, I'm giving it to you. I'm giving it to you. You have to speak, I'm giving it to you. So where should it go? No, from area 40, once you have decided that I want to answer back, it will go to Broca's area. Suppose have to give the pen, then we'll go to motor cortex. Am I clear? If you have to give motor act, if you have to lift the keys, then we'll go to motor cortex. No, if you have to answer back, yes, I'm giving you. No, I'm not able to find it. I don't know where it is. You take your own keys. Then if you have to reply back with voice, it will go to Broca's area. From Broca's area to the motor cortex area of speech. Suppose you have to pick up the keys and give it to him. That will directly go to motor cortex. Hope I'm clear. Yeah. Final thing. Suppose I use my eyes. I give an indication. Come here. So I'm saying come here. Before going that, I will go to occipital cortex once. So this is the occipital cortex. Can anyone tell me what is the function of occipital cortex? This is the occipital cortex. Occipital cortex is concerned with vision. This is known as the primary visual area. Area is known as area 17. This is more on the medial aspect. For your purpose and drawing lateral aspect. So this is known as the lunate sulcus. You may or may not remember, it's not very important. We know the lunate sulcus. We have the primary auditory area, which is area 17 on either side. This is area 17. On either side of it, we have the visual associative areas, which are known as area 18 and area 19. So we have the primary visual area and we have the secondary visual area.